Hello, I'm Shieldwall100 and welcome to another Batman Miniatures Game 3rd Edition game report. This time featuring a Birds of Prey crew led by Poison Ivy versus a Joker crew led by, well, the Joker, of course. Today we're focusing on a piece of Gotham at the docks which, due to some very lax environmental protection laws, a chemical plant has been erected right next door and the two crews are going to be fighting over the goods. I am guessing either Poison Ivy to destroy it or for the Joker to make use of it. Right, and before I get into explaining the crews, just look in the description below to see a code for the web store, thetophattedhamster.com, for 10% off your first or next purchase. As I always say, I'm not affiliated with them, but they kindly gave me the code to spread around, and I thought it would be a nice thing to pass on. Okay, let's get on and have a look at the crews. Okay, I'll start with the Birds of Prey crew, which in this edition is both the original Birds of Prey themselves from the comic books and also the Gotham City Sirens as shown here, all folded into one neat little faction. As you can see, there's Poison Ivy in the middle there. She is the crew's boss for the purposes of this game, and she is a regular old box of tricks. She's mainly a supporting character, but she also has some really interesting wild card rules, like the ability to hypnotize opponents, etc, etc, which hopefully we'll get to see today. Also, you can see Harley Quinn there. She has affinity Poison Ivy, so she's allowed to be included in this crew as well, and yep, she's just as fast and hard-hitting as she always was. So yeah, hopefully she'll be able to continue that today in the service of a different crew. Catwoman, taken as a free agent in the front left of your screen there. She's another free agent, but the fact that the Kite Man is also there, it allows us to take two free agents, which is how you can make this crew possible. Well, in this particular iteration at least. And yeah, she is the same Catwoman I take usually with organised crime, so she's the usual sneaky, scory, objective-y sort of setup that I'm hoping for here. You can see Ivy's plants in all their glory arrayed around her, including my own favourite, Frank. He is such a good model. I'll always be wanting to take him at any opportunity I can. Unfortunately, he's not in his upgraded form with the ancient plants mutation, etc, that Poison Ivy could take, but just didn't have the points this time, so he's in his very basic form, but nonetheless a striking figure, and hoping to have a lot of fun with him today. And yes, like I said before, we also have, rounding out the crew as a henchman, Kite Man, who works pretty well with Poison Ivy, but he's still a pretty nondescript henchman in terms of what he can do offensive capabilities wise. He has no weapons, but he is really good depending upon the wind strength and direction. So we hoping to use his excess mobility to good effect. From purchasable war gear, he has most of it in the crew because he's the only henchman who can really make use of it. I've given him, just for your information, I've given him a grapple gun, a Titan dose. He's also got a camo vest, so yeah, he's rocking the equipment, and hopefully be able to use it to score. Okay, right, moving on to the next crew. I'm taking a different tack with today's Joker crew. Usually you can just load up with his own personalised henchman and a decent, one of his own signature sidekicks as well, and just call it a day with his crews. But no, I decided to go for some different models, shall we say. So we've got the Joker here from the Batbox, and yeah, really like this guy. He has the Joker's gas poison and all sorts of little tricks and things, and he's quite good at close combat himself. So yeah, he's pretty solid boss to take compared to a lot of the others, at least, who aren't like obvious assassins or Batmens or whatever. You've got Borgon the Cursed here, a big heavy hitting guy. Very stupid, can't really score objectives apart from ones which come about by bludgeoning people, but he's a good intimidation model. I've gone for Panda Man for his really good anti-dodging shooting capabilities with his silenced big heavy weapon there. We've got Dynamite again after a great showing in a game I did with his taunt. I really wanted to use him again. And King Shark. at the back there. Another big, strong powerhouse, very tough, and able to lay out the hurt. Looking forward to giving him a go. Haven't used him on the channel yet. And finally, last but by all means least, we have Condiment King, another one of the Knight models, Legends of the Dark Knight, I think, range. Bit of another oddball guy. He does fit well into a Joker crew, though, I think, with his colour scheme and his general interesting approach to the game. Yes, looking forward to getting some use out of him, whether it'll be any use at all or not, but at least he won't be giving away any victory points, because even one of his own special rules is the opponent cannot use him to score in any way, shape or form, because he is just so little is expected of him. Okay, let's move on to the deployment and see how things set up. Okay, models are all set up and we're waiting for their first turn. I'll just run you through it quickly, starting with Poisoned Ivy in the Birds of Prey. You can see the lady herself in the middle there next to that sewer marker, with Kite Man in easy inspire range since he's a henchman, right next to her on top of the boxes. Catwoman over this side and Harley Quinn on the boat, both of which ready to sprint down the flanks. They're both very fast characters, so they'll be able to reposition easily anyway, even if they are a bit out of position at the beginning. The plants are all set up off board, as is the standard for their type. They will be coming on from various suspect markers as the game progresses. It's their special deployment rule because they are static once they are on the board. I'll just say the suspect markers which are placed for them before in the deployment phase before the game starts are there's one here, one on top of the gantry there, and a couple in the Joker's own deployment zone, one behind there at the back here, and one behind the crane. Okay, it'll become more clear as the game goes on, and they might not even appear from those suspect markers, they might appear from new ones which are put down. The Joker's crew, moving over, you've got the big man himself in the middle, ready to able to inspire his henchmen across a bigger area if he's in the middle. Borgon the Cursed next to him. Got Panda Man up on the crane for covering fire there. Condiment King next to the crates. King Shark just here. And yes, I believe that concludes the deployment. We're going to go into the... Oh, Lily, please. Lily, never mind. We're going to go into the first turn now. We're going to start the take the lead phase for turn 1. Okay, the take the lead and raise the plan phases for turn 1 are now completed. In the take the lead phase, there were no cards played from either side's objective card hand. The initiative roll came up as a, as you can see there, a 5-1 in favour of Joker. Joker is the white die, and so he'll be going first this turn. In terms of the raise the plan phase, again no cards were played, but audacity markers were handed out. On the Joker side it was very easy, since he as always has his Chaos Agent rule in play, meaning that he can dish out audacity tokens as he goes to his henchmen and himself. But King Shark, being a free agent, doesn't have that, so King Shark got an audacity token because it's good to make the best use of your free agents, I find. On the Birds of Prey side, Poison Ivy as the boss got one, but interestingly only the other models to get them were all plants that she's planning to spring up around the board during the course of the turn. And I'll just bring you over there so you can see that Frank has one. This is Mutated Plant 1, he has one, or she, it. And finally Mutated Plant 2, the one that shoots, has one as well. So yeah, the Harley Quinn and Catwoman interestingly did not get audacity markers. Obviously there's nothing in the objective card hand that really suits them having them, but they'll be looking to move up the board, I'm sure, and get into better positions during this first turn. Okay, let's start the activations. Well, kicking us off for the first activation of the game, the Joker crew activated Dynamite, and he moved forwards out of his deployment zone, back out from under the crane, and put down a suspect marker because he was inspired by the Joker, so he doesn't require audacity to do this. And once he'd left the deployment zone, he was able to put the suspect marker down, and as you can see, he made that into a poisoned fish by playing the It Doesn't Look Fresh card from the hand. There's the thing, there's the description, but basically that poisoned fish, if that's in play at the end of the round, that will score 2 points for the Joker crew. Anything picking it up to remove it will suffer the poisoned effect for its troubles, and there are no Birds of Prey crew models nearby, so yeah, that's looking quite a safe score for 2 points, and but we'll see how it goes by the end of the round. Poison Ivy's crew kicked things off as well with a plant erupting out of the concrete next to the Joker's crew, and this was mutated plant 1, should I say, with the poisonous bite. And what it did was to attack Condiment King, because it has a melee range of 4 inches due to its plant rule, which means it can basically take actions within 4 inches as opposed to just within base contact, to make up for the fact that it can't move at all. Both sides efforted to the absolute maximum to be able to, maximise or minimise the chances of success respectively, and unfortunately for the poisonous plant there was no success. It failed the strength roll, and Condiment King managed to pass all of his defense rolls to nullify the attack dice that did manage to hit. So just the effort damage, but the plants can come back, and the Joker's crew members cannot, so I'd say that's probably a net gain for Poison Ivy. Okay, moving on. Joker crew next, and Condiment King activated. He took one of the audacity markers that was available to the Joker crew, and he moved forward to reveal the suspect marker for the Birds of Prey that was just next to him there, where he ended up having moved up. He then played a suspect marker from his as he was inspired by Joker, so he got the bonus manipulate, and as you can see he turned that into a set of exploding teeth by playing the bite the dust card. We've seen this before. This will chatter around for 6 turns because the d6 roll came up 6, and after end of each model's activation after this, it will move directly towards that model, d6 inches, then it will explode. Anyone caught in the explosion will suffer 1 blood damage, and then if anyone is damaged by that, it will score 2 points. So that's on its way round now. It will explode by the end of the turn because there's way more models than 6 to go. Plants continue to erupt out of nowhere as Poison Ivy summons them to do her bidding. Mutated Plant 2 up next, and it manifested on top of the gantry next to the bubbling cauldron of green liquid. Decided he was going to shoot after a big amount of targets, all very tempting, but King Shark decided to start chipping away at him first since he's an imminent threat, and managed to cause 4 hits with his venomous spores, which it fires at range, each hit doing 1 blood, 1 stun. Killer Shark, being huge, ignores 2 of those stuns, so as you can see takes 4 blood and 2 stun damage for his troubles. Okay, let's move on. Killer Shark got his blood up and decided it was time for some revenge. He strode to the top of the stairs there and just laid about the mutated plant that just shot at him, dealing 5 stun and 5 blood damage with his claws and teeth, which is more than sufficient to remove this plant from the game. Well, I say remove from the game, it gets removed from the board. It can come back in subsequent turns without the damage, and yes, but of course Poison Ivy needs to put down suspect markers in order to be able to manifest it. So okay, we'll move on. Kite Man, hell yeah, activated for the next for the Birds of Prey. First of all, being inspired, he was able to place a suspect marker down here and then use his kite to move as the crow flies just along to the top of the gantry, and that concludes his turn because he did not have audacity. The Panda Man activated for Joker's crew next, and he has a grapple gun paid for out of purchasable war gear, and he used that to get to the top of the shipping crane, so he has a very dominating line of sight for next turn. I'm no doubt he's casting a very formidable silhouette there too. Next turn he'll be in a good position to start shooting. Only the darkness of night will be stopping his line of sight. Harley Quinn started her blitz up the side of the board. She can move as quite astounding 13 inches per turn just because of her high base movement and the acrobatic ability. She didn't have audacity, so that concludes her turn. Nothing else to do with her. Borgon the Cursed up for the Joker crew, and he strode into the middle of the board, and not much else to do except make himself a target for the exploding teeth, which had been on a little circuit around this chemical plant, and ended up back just about over here. It was their last turn, so when they duly came back towards him 4 inches, they exploded, dealing 1 blood damage to his prodigious 10 endurance, so he's not really worried. But more importantly for Joker, scoring 2 victory points for Bite the Dust, which will be an immediate score for them and the first actual points of the game. So Joker crews off. Birds of Prey haven't scored anything yet, but so they really need to get their fingers out. Catwoman for the Birds of Prey next. Again, no audacity counter, so she just started up her run down the pitch, so to speak, and yes, moved all the way from her deployment zone to the middle. She does have a backpack which would give her a free reveal manipulate action, but she's got nothing to actually reveal. She can't use that to place a suspect marker, unfortunately, so that concludes her turn. And finally for Joker, the Joker himself activated. He moved forwards and he used an audacity token that he has around off the board, because he's allowed to allocate them as he goes, to put down a suspect marker for his tactical action, should I say. Nothing really to draw a bead on yet with any of his ranged weapons, and he's nicely positioned to inspire some of his henchmen next turn. Poison Ivy for the Birds of Prey activated next. She actually placed a suspect marker, and by doing so, using her, I think it's the green web ability, but I might be mistaken for another one of her traits. She can place suspect markers anywhere within the control zone of one of her existing plants on the board. So she placed one over here next to the venomous one that tried to bite Condiment King earlier on. After that, she just simply moved up from her position here to behind the boxes here. She might have been a little bit more brave, shall I say, but the appearance of Panda Man and his even more menacing gun than his costume has kind of forced her hand in order to take cover until he can be dealt with. Okay, moving on. And of course I did forget something. As an objective card played from the hand of the Birds of Prey during her activation, because it's played in the third phase, we played the Nest for 3 victory points. What that is an awful lot of text on a lot of these cards, but just read the top bit if you need to. They play it now, but what they're saying is during the recount phase, the Birds of Prey need to have more models inside the Joker's deployment zone than the Joker's crew itself. So yes, that will be fulfilled because the plant is up there and all the Joker's crew has moved by now. So yes, that will be 3 points come the end of the turn for the Birds of Prey. Rounding things off, the Birds of Prey had their last activation of the turn and erupted Frank from the ground from the newly placed suspect marker that Poison Ivy had just laid down. He duly decided he was going to use his Devour attack on Borgon the Cursed. Frank himself put a couple of extra effort into it. Borgon didn't, because his willpower is actually perishingly low, so it wasn't looking good for him anyway. 3 hits got through, doing 3 blood, but most interestingly of all, as a Devour attack, and it did damage, Borgon has actually been devoured by Frank and will be being slowly digested by him over the course of the game, until Borgon in his activation can pass an endurance roll. It's interesting, it just gets him off the board, gets him out of the mix for a while, and he may not be able to activate next turn, although there's a very good chance he will be, because his endurance is so high, he'd probably be able to get out of that trap. But it's an interesting take, and we'll see what happens. And the recount phase is just completed for turn number 1. In terms of scoring cards, it doesn't look fresh scores because the Stinky Fish is still over there by Dynamite, as yet unmolested, and the Nest scores for 3 points for the Birds of Prey because, yes, as I said, they have a model in the enemy deployment zone which is more than the Joker's none. So yes, 2 and 3 points scored respectively for their piles. The first Birds of Prey cast to score at all this turn. A little bit of stun damage came off of each model, and King Shark regenerated 1 of his blood damage. He's now on 3. That takes us to turn 2 and into the take the lead phase there. Turn 2 has started and just completed the take the lead and raise the plan phases for it. In the take the lead phase, no cards were played from the Joker crew's hand. However, Die Hard was played from the Birds of Prey hand. We've seen this before. It's a generic card added into their deck. They have chosen Catwoman to be the model that doesn't get killed or knocked out by the end of the turn, and they'll score 2 points if they manage it. She's a pretty defensive model, and she is nicely tucked away around the corner, so might be an easy score for them. maybe not. There's some fast models on the Joker crew. In terms of the initiative roll, I forgot to do it, so let's do that now. Oh, so it's a 3-all. In that case, the Birds of Prey get the initiative this turn because they did not have it last turn, and that's what happens in the event of a tie. In terms of the Raise the Plan phase, I can tell you who got Audacity. Again, very easy for the Joker crew because it's just King Shark, the rest being able to be dished out as they wish. Yeah. For the Birds of Prey, all the ladies got them. 3 principal ladies got one, so Poison Ivy, Catwoman, and Harley Quinn here. And the other model to get it wasn't Kite Man, as you'd imagine, because you know he is such an influential world character, but no, the poisonous plant that was destroyed by King Shark before has been granted one as well, so if it manifests somewhere it can then start shooting again. Okay, right, well, let's see how the activations play out. Well, Catwoman decided to go first and she had Audacity. She sprinted round behind the cargo crate up ahead of her, and she put down a suspect marker. She had Audacity to do so. She also has a backpack which gives her a free reveal, and in doing so, as you can see, we've done this in several battle reports so far. She turned it into valuable commodities for 3 points. It's a loot counter. She'll have that on her character card. If she stays alive with it till the end of the game, she'll score 3 points for the Birds of Prey, which is pretty good. If she's taken out of action or knocked out, the loot counter can then be picked up from her body by someone else, and it only scores if the Birds of Prey have it, so it's not like they can lose points. But yeah, that's potential 5 victory points from this one model just for this one turn. So yes, good. This is good to actually have models that don't thrive upon being in the mix of combat. The Joker's crew started off with a party trick they'd been thinking about and saving up just for now. Panda Man activated and he let off a flare from purchasable war gear, which seems to be a free action. He can just say he's doing it. What that does is that means for the entirety of the remainder of this turn, the entire board can discount the night fighting rules. So yes, he got into a good position and now he can see everywhere. He has a silence on his weapon, which means it ignores dodging, which is Harley Quinn's primary mode of avoiding incoming gunfire, so he decided he'd train his gun upon her and he opened fire with a burst. She did not have cover, as you can see from down here. Yes, he did. 3 hits got through, which did 6 blood, and oh, it would be 3 stun. I missed one. I'll add that on, don't you worry about that. And yes, not enough to kill her. He crucially futzed the strength die roll, which was on a 2. A 2 or more would have killed her, and it came up as a 1, so she got lucky in some respects. But yeah, the fact that he had a silencer, he even had the red dot, which allowed him to re-roll the one that missed, and that came up. But unfortunately, can't re-roll the strength die, and that one just came up as a 1, which allows her to continue on, albeit on 1 point of endurance left. So yeah, that was a pretty brutal turn. He didn't even need to use Audacity to do that. He just needed his shooting action. Okay, Birds of Prey up next, of course, and I thought it would be fun to see if Harley Quinn could do any damage to her old boss and boyfriend, the Joker. She vaulted off from the cargo boat and moved straight into contact with him, swinging her mallet as she came. He used 3 efforts to reduce her dice pool. She could only put 1 back in due to the sustained damage that she'd taken, so her effort limit was vastly reduced. In the end, 1 of the strength die got through. She gets 2 strength die with that mallet, as she should, and he couldn't block that. He blocked everything else, so Joker takes 5 stun damage from his willpower of 8, which is pretty impressive considering her Harley's sustained damage, like I said. Yeah, so that's that. It does leave Harley quite exposed, but she was in damage. She was in danger anyway, so might as well get some use out of her before the end. Condiment King, sensing his time to shine and the recently revealed Harley Quinn as a prime target, he moved just a little bit so he had a better angle of fire, not over Joker. I wouldn't want to get condiments over this particular crime lord. And yes, they're assault weapons, so it was just a -1 to hit. And he opened fire on Harley Quinn with his mustard gun, the deadly mustard, and its poison attribute. Each hit does 1 blood. Harley efforted once to remove the strength die, and unfortunately for her, the 2 dice he had left came up boxcars, double 6, both of which hit her for 1 blood each. So you can see the 2 blood there, which is enough to unfortunately kill her for the purposes of this game. So she'll be removed from the board shortly. In doing so, the Joker crew played Seasoning the Mix from their hand, because Harley did suffer from poison just as she died. So a model with the poison effect is removed as a casualty, and that scores 2 victory points straight away for the Joker crew. Yes, so yeah, there you go. That's pretty dangerous. Deadly mustard. Forgot to mention, of course, that one of the weird twists of the Birds of Prey deck is that they can react to enemy actions, and they have a card called No Protection Needed. You see that little wing icon next to the 3? That means that when the text in bold is met, so a friendly model is removed as a casualty or becomes KO, such as Harley Quinn just did, this means that they can now score the lower criteria, so at least 2 enemy models being KO'd in the future will score them 2 victory points. It's an odd one, but I'll keep track of it, and if it comes up I'll explain it again. Poison Ivy activated next for the Birds of Prey, and I told you during the before deployment that she was a bag of tricks, and yes, you're just about to find out why. First of all, she moved around the side of the cargo containers into view of, well, just about most of the models in the middle of the board, and well, the first thing she did was to use her special action, first of all, to hypnotize Condiment King, who was over there. The hypnosis action is a lot easier to track now. Basically, she forced him to take a willpower test, which he duly failed, being a pretty lowly henchman by his own standards, to be honest, and that allows her to force him to make 2 actions which can't damage him. The first thing he did was to use his ketchup gun on King Shark up here. 2 hits got through. Once again, box cars were rolled, double 6. So you can see 2 blood damage there. Because it was a ketchup gun, this slows down King Shark by puts a -4 counter on him for movement when he next activates, so that will be very frustrating. It stops him from getting around and doing everything he wanted to. Also, the anaphylactic shock rule put innovating 1 on the giant monster here, so even his next attacks or defenses will be handicapped accordingly. So yeah, that's a pretty good one. She then used the second action that he could do to move him over into base nearby to Frank the Plant. Her second special action she did, because she can do 2, being a scientific character, she used her green web special ability to ask Frank to attack him, which he did. Both sides efforted twice to increase and decrease the attack dice pool, and actually no damage got through to the Condiment King. He couldn't have been devoured by Frank anyway, because Frank's still chewing on Borgon, but nonetheless it could have been some more damage, and yeah, that was a fun one. Finally, Poison Ivy is going to use her ability to her tactical action, because she still hasn't done that yet, to place a suspect marker, and she's going to put it just here, still within the control zone radius of Frank the Plant. So yes, that's a pretty eventful turn for her. She efforted once to make sure the hypnosis took effect. That's where that came from. Okay, well, that was fun. Let's move on to the Joker. King Shark, recently doused in ketchup, activated for the Joker's crew. He just with his impaired movement, he could only really get down here. He used his swift rule to get a little bit extra movement, but it still wasn't really that good. He couldn't get into hitting range of anything, so he's a sad killer shark for now. What he did do, though, was to put down a suspect marker, which, as you can see, became another poison fish with a "it doesn't look fresh" rule. 2 victory points if that stays on the board by the end of the turn. Kite Man up next, and he didn't have any suspect markers nearby, but he was still just in inspire range from Poison Ivy, so he moved his fairly paltry 6 inches down to here using his kite. Obviously the wind direction changed, not his fault at all, it's completely understandable really, and he used his inspire, he's used the fact that he was inspired to put down a suspect marker. Also in his turn, the Birds of Prey played the nest again in the 3rd phase, as you can see there. During the recount phase, they're going to have more enemies in the Joker's deployment zone than the Joker himself does. So still a bit of the turn to go. Joker can react, but he'd have to pull models back to do so, and there's already one, possibly two models in his deployment zone already, so we'll see how that goes. Borgon erupted from the depths of Frank's guts, which is a horrible thing to say, but it's what happened. By activating, he easily passed his endurance roll and took an audacity marker from the Joker's pool to be used. There's two remaining. And yes, he strode up to Poison Ivy and started using that axe to good effect. He first of all used his special action that he had with Audacity to distract her, reducing her defense by 1. He then attacked her. Both sides put effort in. Dangerous for Borgon, but nonetheless warranted, I think, in this situation. He then he managed to get 2 hits through, because again the strength die whiffed for the Joker crew. Even on a 2+ would have been so much more useful. Still, never mind. 2 hits got through after all was said and done. Poison Ivy had used her adaptable ability to increase her defense at the beginning of the turn, incidentally. That's why she was only hit on 3s. And yes, so as you can see, two hits got through, each causing 2 blood, so 4 blood damage to Poison Ivy, and yes, she's looking a little bit creaky at the moment. Birds of Prey next, and Frank the Plant activated. Before, he did not have Audacity, so he could only do 1 action this turn, but what did happen was the Birds of Prey played Regrowth as a resource from the hand, which is Poison Ivy's signature card. Basically, with all that text there, it allowed Frank to be redeployed anywhere on the gaming table in contact with a friendly suspect, and he just chose to nudge forward a little bit, not enough, but significantly far enough, just to in contact with that suspect there. Put him in range of the Joker, who's ominously not there at the moment, because the strength roll came up when Frank tried to devour him with a successful 4. The Joker couldn't do anything about that, and so yes, the Joker is currently in Frank's tummy being digested, so it might prevent the Joker from activating this turn, or maybe not. It would be useful nonetheless. Dynamite activated for Joker and just moved backwards into the deployment zone so that he could contest the nest card that the Birds of Prey played earlier, just to get more models. So it's currently even Stevens as regards to number of models in the Joker's deployment zone, so that card isn't scoring, but we'll see what happens next. Staying over on this part of the board, the Birds of Prey activated mutated plant number 3 to spring out of the suspect marker that Dynamite was trying to get back to in order to reveal, probably, and yes, he just placed himself next to it. That doesn't count as an action he's used. He doesn't have Audacity, but he could still attack Dynamite, and as you can see, he got 2 hits through, one of which was a strength die, but didn't cause a critical. But nonetheless, there's 2 blood damage. Both sides, as you can see, used effort to increase their chances of success. And yeah, so that's mutated plant 3's turn. It's actually put 2 models in the Joker's suspect deployment zone as opposed to the one that the Joker has. So we're back in the scoring for the Birds of Prey. Just activated the Joker for, well, the Joker crew, and unfortunately for him, now I haven't got a model of him to show you because he's still in Frank's tum-tum. Unfortunately, he failed his endurance test and took 2 blood damage as a result due to Frank's slow digestion rule, and yeah, that meant that he doesn't get his turn, which is kind of crucial for the Joker's crew. And yeah, well, let's see if anything else happens in this turn's activations. Birds of Prey turn continued, and I don't know if you can make out in that scrum that mutated plant 2 erupted again from the suspect marker that was in the middle, which Frank had just used to relocate himself actually. It came into play and then shot at Borgon the Cursed, dealing 3 stun, 3 blood damage, which is sufficient to knock out Borgon. I need to get the right counter out to show that on him, but yes, that's a threat to Ivy down, because yes, she's a bit exposed at the moment, so yeah. That is yeah, so that's the big guy down. He's out for the count. Yeah, cat attack dealt with, and yes, it was just this plant left to activate for the Birds of Prey crew, and it has literally nothing to do. It has no Audacity and nothing. It can't move, it cannot place suspect markers. The only thing it can do is either attack or reveal enemy suspect markers within 4 inches of itself, and neither of those apply right now. So we're going to move on to the recount phase and see who scored what. Okay, and recount phase just completed. A large amount of stun damage came off across all the models. Lots of them actually having made efforts and just taken generic damage as well. Yes, a lot of the models on the board are carrying damage of one sort or another, or both, more to the point. In terms of scoring cards, on the Birds of Prey side, Catwoman was completely untouched this turn, so Die Hard easily scores for 2 points for the Birds of Prey, and the Nest also scores for the Birds of Prey for 3 points, as they have 2 models in the Joker deployment zone and the Joker only has 1. Just in case you're wondering, Panda Man up here is outside of the deployment zone. Not by much, but he is, and he'd already activated, he couldn't get back in time, so that's another card for them scored. The Joker's crew, the Stinky Fish put down by Killer Shark of all people, it doesn't look fresh, scores for 2 points, and Joker from his hand played Stick to the Plan, a generic card that he slotted in there, thinking he'd have more chance to get suspect markers out, since the Birds of Prey crew in configuration tends to be getting rid of theirs quite quickly. So yes, 2 victory points there for having more suspect markers than the opponent in play at the end of the turn. So 2 points for that as well. Okay, let's move on to turn 3, and yeah, it's a right old mess. Okay, Take the Lead and Raise the Plan phases are now done for turn number 3, and it was pretty straightforward stuff. In the first phase, Take the Lead, the Birds of Prey team played Overwhelming Charisma, Kite Man's signature card. It'll be worth 3 points, and it's quite fun actually. Basically, the person playing it, so the Birds of Prey team, in the first phase they choose 1 friendly model and 1 enemy model. I'll just see if I can get it into focus, that's better. The chosen friendly model reveals more enemy suspect markers than the enemy model this round, and for fun decided to play that on Kite Man himself as the Birds of Prey's chosen figure, and the Birds of Prey chose Dynamite over here to be the Joker crew model that had to reveal one of their suspect markers, which sadly for him probably won't be possible, so it's just down to whether or not Kite Man can do it or not. Yeah, and so that's that one. No cards played by the Joker crew for the first or second phases. In terms of audacity, you'll see that on the Birds of Prey side, Kite Man's got one, of course, Poison Ivy and Catwoman. There was one spare. They don't really need audacity, to be perfectly honest, for plants, because plants can't really move, but Frank's got one for fun, and yeah, we'll see we'll see if anything happens in practice actually. I mean, I might be wrong. On the Joker side, the audacity markers as always will just go to Killer Shark as a free agent who doesn't benefit from the Chaos Agent or Trickster rule. Okay, let's move on into activations for turn number 3. Oh, I forgot to say actually, before I stop the take, the initiative roll was had, and I'll just bring you over here for the dice roll, and as you can see it's 5-3, and the blue dice are Birds of Prey, so Birds of Prey have initiative again this turn. Okay, Poison Ivy went first for the Birds of Prey, sensing that she was indeed in quite a bit of danger. A bit of a lot to explain this time. As I said, she's a good character, lots of rules, and you can do a lot with her, and she certainly is trying to get her points worth today. First of all, she was over here, remember? The first thing she did was to play as a resource from the hand, They Must Know Pain. It's a generic card, and what it does is, for 1 resource point, she was able to remove 2 of the damage markers she'd suffered, and yes, so that's what she did. She removed 2 of those blood markers, which puts her a bit more of a level footing for the rest of the turn, and hopefully the game. The next thing she did was to use her special actions. She gets 2. She has Scientific like last turn, and she used her control pheromones first on Condiment King again. He actually passed the willpower roll though, despite the fact that she used an effort to reduce his dice pool, so he had to take the 2 dice, but they came up double 1. He's either rolling box cards or double 1s, is Condiment King, so he was able to resist Poison Ivy's charms this turn. So yeah, so no squirting mustard and ketchup over his friends now. The next thing she did with her second special action was to use her chlorokinesis power, which enabled her to move from anywhere within Frank's control zone. He has a control zone of 4 inches, as always. He's a plant, and she was able to move over onto these boxes. She placed a suspect marker with her tactical action, which oh, I forgot to say, when they the next thing that happened was because the opponent had more suspects in play, you see the bold text there, they were able to replace their previous their face-up card with this one. So the easier a friendly model places a suspect within 4 inches of an enemy model condition applied to it, so they were able to score in position. Trust me on this, they did. For 2 points, basically. They Poison Ivy placed this suspect marker, and it's within 4 inches of both Killer Shark and also no, King Shark. Sorry, Killer Shark. I'm getting characters mixed up now. King Shark and Condiment King, and yes, so that fulfilled the 2 victory point criteria. Yeah, 2 victory point fulfilling criteria. So yes, that's 2 points straight away for Birds of Prey. She then used her movement action finally to zip under here, out of line of sight of the panda guy, so he has at least to move in order to be able to draw a bead on her if he's going to shoot at her at all, because yeah, he no longer has the benefit of the flare this turn, but you know, he's still dangerous. He still has his grapple gun. He could potentially damage her, and she was hurt at the beginning of the turn, so anything that the Birds of Prey can do to shield her would be beneficial. Okay, right, over to the Joker crew. Sorry for the length of that activation. Dynamite activated for the Joker crew. He took an audacity marker so that he could do more things than just the one. First of all, he wanted to taunt Poison Ivy, and he made an opposed willpower roll against her, and unfortunately he was not successful in that. He failed that, so that would have been crucial. It would have reduced her defense value by 2 for the remainder of the turn. Could easily have been fatal for her, but was not to be. Not to finish there though. He then moved into contact and then attacked with his axe, but sadly for him, he did not get any successful hits. Okay, moving back to the Birds of Prey. Hell yeah! Kite Man activated for the Birds of Prey next, and he just wanted to get his mission done. He flew down from the top here down to ground level and picked up the suspect marker, which was the Joker's crew suspect marker, which was next in the middle of that. He managed to score his overwhelming charisma card, because even by the end of the turn he's removed an enemy suspect marker, and Dynamite over here can't possibly do that now. He's activated, so that will be 3 points in the bag. Leaves him a trifle exposed. He engaged his Titan dose though, so that he's now +1 to all of his basic stats for the rest of the turn, so he's defense 4. You never know if that will make any difference. Condiment King activated next, and all he did not take an audacity token. All he did was to simply put down a suspect marker for the Joker crew next to where the previous one was. Now he can, because there isn't one there to stop him, and he played Let Them In on the Joke for 2 points for the Joker crew. All he needed to do, he has the Trickster trait automatically because he's in the Joker crew, and he is henchman rank despite not being, you know, dedicated Joker crew member. But yes, a friendly model with a Trickster trait places a suspect marker within 4 inches of an enemy model, which certainly fulfills the criteria there. Multiple models around there. So yes, 2 points for Joker crew, straight back in. Okay, having to use an unconventional camera angle to see Catwoman, who just activated for the Birds of Prey, and boy, what a turn she just had. This is making an entrance in style. She had audacity, if you recall. She jumped in between King Shark and Borgon the Cursed, who's still knocked out incidentally. I failed his recovery roll last turn. I might have forgotten to mention that. And yes, she laid about herself on both sides using her whip. It has reach, so she could attack both of them. What happened next? She has four attack dice plus the strength die to distribute between them. She put one of the attack dice on Borgon, who's knocked out, therefore, you know, hit on 2s can't be block it anything, and the rest on King Shark, who efforted as much as he could to reduce her attack pool. She efforted it all back in though, so both sides took. She should have a little 3. There you go, I'll put a 3 marker there for her. That'll be on her character card soon to represent the effort she put in. Right, the attack on Borgon easily hit on 2s, so that would normally be 1 blood, 1 stun, but because he's knocked out, she's putting the boot in, so to speak, so it becomes 2 blood damage. He's still not dead, but he's only 1 point of endurance away. He's taken a battering this turn. Actually, that's where it went. It shouldn't be there. Sorry about that. He couldn't effort, so yeah, he knew he's knocked out, so yeah, he took 2 blood damage. King Shark, all of Surprisingly, all of Catwoman's attacks hit, including the strength die, which actually rolled a 6 as a critical as well. But and all of King Shark's, despite his efforts, all of his defense rolls missed, failed, and he rolled really bad. I think it was 111 or something like that. And yeah, that gives him 4 more blood and 4 more stun. Well, as it is, it's only 2 more stun, but nonetheless, 4 more blood takes him up to 8 damage, 8 blood damage for the game so far, and he is only on. He's only got 8 endurance. So King Shark actually, amazingly, died from that attack for the purposes of this game. I'm sure he's not really dead. No one's really dead in DC Comics, or any comics really, I suppose. Everyone just keeps coming back to life. So, but hey, he's out for the count for this one. That was impressively good for Catwoman. So, you know, she's not traditionally a fighting character, but yeah, she did a business there. This is labelled the Birds of Prey to play from the hand Pretty Birds, which was the actual ambition of this activation. What is 2 enemy models suffer damage from the same attack by a model they could not see at the beginning of the attacker's activation. Well, she was round here, and she jumped in between them and did the business. So there you go. That's a turn and 2 victory points into the bag, and a very threatening model down and off as well. Okay. Not to be forgotten, Joker managed to pass his endurance roll and wrench himself out of Frank the Plant's mouth. What happened next was that he places himself next to Frank. He was then in good line of sight of Poison Ivy to use his one-shot gun, which simply on a 2+ did 3 blood damage. He didn't get the magic 6, which would have caused 6 blood damage and killed her, but you know, he got the 3 damage, which puts her back in peril, shall we say. And he then moved across the battlefield over here under the stairs and placed a suspect marker under those stairs. In doing that, he managed to score once again in this turn, let them in on the joke. It's an instant score, so it can be played multiple times if the card comes up, if you're lucky enough. And yes, he has the trickster trait on his profile, and he put this suspect marker well within 4 inches of multiple enemies. So 2 victory points for the Joker there, no problem at all. Okay, let's move on. Mutated Plant 2 next. Birds of Prey peeking up there from in the middle of the scrum, decided it was going to use its last piece of, well, ammunition, I suppose, to fire its venomous spores, or spit actually, as it says on its stat card, up at the panda guy. Here is in range and is in line of sight to hit. You know, he's not too shrouded by darkness. So as you can see, 2 hits got through, each causing 1 blood, 1 stun. They were looking for the magic 6 on the strength die to knock Panda Man down, spoil his aim perhaps, but was not to be. And yes, so 2 blood, 2 stun, not really enough to cause him too many problems at this point. Panda Man galvanised into action by being shot at, then trained his gun downwards and actually opened fire on Catwoman again, because she cannot dodge bullets caused by a gun with a silencer. Silencers nullifying out her dodge skill altogether. And yes, he opened fire. As you can see, the damage is up there, causing 4 blood and 2 stun to her. Couldn't do anything about that much. Unfortunately, again, the strength die for the Joker crew on a 2+ whiffed altogether, which again would have been enough to finish her off. But he got quite lucky. He got 2 of the attack dice rolls through on 5s or 6s, so not bad. 2 out of 3 on that isn't too bad, I suppose, and caused a lot of damage to her, and she is still carrying the loot, so she's quite vulnerable there, but we'll see how things go. Okay, there are only Birds of Prey models left to go now, to my knowledge, and so we're just running through the plants basically. Frank activated for the Birds of Prey, and he decided that he would like to eat Condiment King because he comes with his own array of sauces. And so yes, what he did was he put the 2 effort in from Frank and 1 in from Condiment King, increased the die pool, and the Devour came up. Frank hit with every single attack, and Condiment King blocked a couple, which basically culminated in 3 blood damage going through to Condiment King, who hadn't taken any blood damage up until now, I don't believe. Nothing marked on there, and I can't remember any. And so Condiment King is now devoured by Frank for the turn, and yes, maybe sitting out the end of the game, but at least he tastes nice. And finally, for the turn 3, Mutated Plant number 3 activated, attacked Dynamite, who was within its action zone. Unfortunately, did not do anything at all, missed every single die. Okay, the recount phase now completed. I can inform you that the overwhelming charisma card has indeed now been added to the scored pile because Kite Man managed to reveal a suspect marker and Dynamite did not. Could not really. And once again the Joker crew managed to score stick to the plan from their hand by dint of having more suspect markers in play. So yes, those cards will be added to the respective score decks. Borgon the Cursed remains knocked out. He's only willpower 5. He wasn't really going to be getting back up again. So yeah, we're ready to move into the last turn now, turn 4, and we'll see who can score those last minute cards. Okay, and it's the last turn and there's a bit of a scramble for points. Joker played Let's Dance from their hand for 2 points. It basically means that if a leader, psychic or free agent suffers damage from an enemy action during the round, they'll get 2 points at the very end of it, which is really handy to play just as a throwaway card. Stops you, just sort of put a bit of a handicap on the enemy actions, that little bit of potential hesitation, shall we say. From the Birds of Prey, Airy 2 came out. It's a card we haven't seen before. It will score 3 points if it comes off. Right, the tallest piece of scenery on the board has to be selected, and that is the crane, clearly, just a bit taller than the stack over there. The opponent, that's the Joker player, has to put an event marker in contact with that scenery element, so we're going to put it down here. If the Birds of Prey have more models within 4 inches of that marker and also this piece of scenery, then they will score 3 points. So it's possible. There's a lot of models that can beeline over there though. We'll see how it goes, I guess. Right, the initiative roll hasn't been done yet, so we'll see who gets it. So I'll just do that now. And that is a 5-3 in favour of Joker, so Joker will be going first. In terms of audacity markers, the Joker's crew doesn't have to declare any at all because they can all pick them up as they go. No free agent anymore to have to take one. On the Birds of Prey crew, that was very simple. Again, it was Poison Ivy, Catwoman, Kite Man, and again one of the plants, so Frank got one because he might be able to get some use out of it, but I don't think so. Right, let's move on and see who can get these last points on the board. Joker activated first for his own crew. He moved into contact with Catwoman, recognising that she still had the valuable commodities loot on her, which means that she's currently scoring 3 points for Birds of Prey as all things stand. Yes, he tried to use his electric handshake on her, but she passed the willpower roll. Unfortunately for her though, he then attacked her with his poison knife, and when all was said and done, after all the efforts, she could only put one in. He managed to get one hit through, one hit that she couldn't block, and yes, that took her up to 6 damage, which means that she's now dead, I'm afraid. Catwoman is out for the count, removed as a casualty, and therefore the loot will be going in that spot there. Okay, right, let's move on to the Birds of Prey. Poison Ivy activated with Birds of Prey. Both crews decided to use their leaders first for most influential means. She had audacity, as obviously she should do. She first of all used her 2 special actions, once to activate Mortal Kiss, which means if she manages to get 3 hits through in close combat on a model, that model will be removed as a casualty regardless of how much damage it has left. She then tried to hypnotise Dynamite, who she was in contact with, and succeeded quite simply. That's one of her efforts there to make it easier for you. She didn't actually make him do anything. She left him where he was. She didn't take advantage of the 2 actions, just moved him around a bit and back again perhaps, I don't know. But doing so allowed her to score I'm Feeling Weird, the generic card from the generic deck, but she inflicted an effect on an enemy model for 2 victory points, so that was well worth it. She then attacked him with her normal attack. She put in maximum effort. He put in maximum effort as well. He put 2 effort in, sorry. That's all he could do left. But she managed to get 3 hits through on him, which is actually sufficient to kill him anyway, regardless of the Mortal Kiss. Didn't check that beforehand. So yes, Dynamite sadly is off. And yeah, I think that is that for him. Yes, he needs to roll actually to see if he explodes. He does not. Oh well, never mind. Okay, didn't think of that. That might have actually damaged her. Never mind. Anyway, let's move on. She then used her movement action to move over to the event marker to start qualifying for that. Okay, that's her done. It's a sad day for new as yet untried models, as the Condiment King activated for Joker's crew and had to take an endurance test to see if he could avoid being digested by Frank the Plant. Unfortunately for him, he rolled a 6 and his endurance is 5, so rolling over is a fail, and therefore he took 2 more blood damage, which is sadly enough to finish him off, I'm afraid. Worse yet for the Joker's crew, in their own activation that is, Feed Me, Frank the Plant's card was in their hand for 3 points. Remove the model by a casualty by the slow digestion trait. That's just happened. That scores a mighty 3 points for the birds of prey, not even in their own turn. On the upside, I mean, your expendable came out of the Joker's hand for 1 point, which activates when one of their henchmen is removed. It does take the edge off it a little bit, but yeah, back to the birds of prey. Panda Man activates as the last model to activate in this game for the Joker's crew, Borgon Steel being knocked out and therefore ineligible to go, and well, in Condiment King having just been eaten. So he had his grapple gun back online, so he used it to get down to the ground level here, and he put down a suspect marker which enabled him to play Let Them In on the Joke, again from the Joker's crew for the 3rd time I think this game. 2 easy victory points, a suspect marker next to an enemy model. Nice and easy. And yes, that concludes Joker's phase. It's just down to what can the birds of prey do with their remaining activations. In response, the birds of prey activated mutated plant number 3 and played from their hand I Work Best Alone as a resource. It's easy enough for 2 resource points, so quite a lot, but it does move a plant, which is unusual. Place the active friendly model up to 4 inches away. It is legal. Normally plants can't move and can't be given bonuses to their move, but this is literally said, this uses the statement of place rather than add 4 inches to its move or something. So yes, it can waddle along or burrow back into the ground and erupt back again near this event marker, which will almost certainly score Eerie 2 for the birds of prey. It's a reason I moved Panda Man from on top here, was I figured that they'd be able to get more models over. I slightly cheated because I knew, but nonetheless, you know, it was always going to score. There's plenty of other things that the birds of prey can do to score this, but they wanted to make sure. Right, I think there's just one more activation, and I'll cover that in just a second. The wind well and truly picked up for Kite Man this turn. He was down here in the middle of a whole bunch of suspect markers I found, and he had more than enough move to nip across to pick up the loot that Catwoman had just dropped, and then zip up to the top of the dockyard crane, sorry, with the remaining movement. Easy enough. So he's grabbed the loot again for 3 victory points for the birds of prey, and that does finish his turn. I believe it's time to count up and see who's won. Almost neglected to mention, I did do the recount phase very quickly, just to point out which cards had scored. Eerie 2 does definitely score for the birds of prey. They have many models qualifying to get it. Like I said, 3 victory points for them. Out of the Joker's hand came Stick to the Plan for the last time. They still have more suspect markers on the board, so that's another 2 victory points for them. And just to qualify, just to, you know, to absolutely to certify without any doubt, that's what I'm trying to go for. Valuable Commodities does score. It's the end of the game, and yes, Kite Man has the valuable commodities. Now let's move on to the final count and some thoughts on the game. Right, over to the final count, and I'll do the birds of prey crew first. They're the first scored pile I managed to pick up. So 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 14, 16, 18, 20, 23, 26 points. That's pretty impressive. That's more than I thought it would be, actually. And okay, on to the Joker. So 26 to beat. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21. So 26 plays 21. I think that's a fair reflection of how the things went on the board itself. Yes, the birds of prey definitely took a little while to get used to and get into the swing of things, but once they were able to start, you know, leveraging their abilities to score their cards, it was pretty plain sailing. And yes, they got some good generic cards out of the generic deck as well, with valuable commodities and yeah, some crucially scoring character-specific cards, such as Frank's slow digestion. That was pure luck that it came up into the hand just as Condiment King got killed within Frank's tummy. So yeah, and of course Kite Man as well. Hell yeah, he did the business, scored a whole bunch of points too. So yeah, it all come together, and Joker just didn't really get into the swing of things either, but didn't have much chance to sometimes either. He was shut down quite nastily by the plants popping up in all places they didn't want them to be. Yeah, I was quite pleased with that game. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. I do enjoy using Poison Ivy, and I think use of her this time will help inform my choices in the objective deck in the future. She had several which were based around knocking out enemy models, and then I found out that most of her crew tends to do blood damage instead, so kind of hamstrung her a little bit at the beginning, but we got around it, and she did pull out a win in the end, so no harm, no foul. Like I said, I hope you really enjoyed this game. If you've got any comments or opinions or feedback, I'm all ears. It's always good to hear, and you know, I really hope you join me for more games in the future. I really like my setup here. I've got plenty of other configurations to try out, and all sorts of things. So yeah, and hopefully some more crews on the way. Right, well, take care. I'm Shieldwall 100, and enjoy.